If you don't know anything about rugby, don't talk.
Regan. Drop goal from Larkham.
Australian 3-4, they've got the advantage.
Worst press conference. Well done, boys.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the G&GR Teams pod for the week. I'm the Happy Man. Carl's with me tonight as Sully's taken a bit of a bait, so he's unavailable, and we're off and running with the pod tonight. Evening, Carl. How are you going?
Yeah, good man. How are you?
Awesome.
It's the only way to be.
Too much rugby's never enough, mate. To everyone who's out there listening, thanks for all your support. Please download, subscribe, rate, review, and share it on all your platforms. We really appreciate the effort. We gained another 10% viewership last week, and we're keen to keep growing it. As always, we're part of the Green and Gold Rugby family. Jump on the website and have a look around. There's the forums, community pages, all the other bits and pieces that we all rant on with every week. So get involved with it. It's good fun. Tonight, we're just going to do our normal thing, hit the pod, up with the teams for the week, what made us happy, what made us sad, and crack on. Carl, what did you enjoy for the week?
The Canes won, obviously, so I was pretty happy with that. Actually, I think what I did like was the intensity of both the Canes versus the Chiefs and the Blues versus the Crusaders. It was just good rugby. I think that we're getting to see some really good rugby. At the start of the year, there was people bemoaning the rugby and saying that people aren't following it anymore. It's a shit spectacle. The game's going bad. But you look at the games we had this week. The Reds are playing well. The Brumbies against the Rebels was a really good game with some good rugby. I just really like the fact that the rugby is really good, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I couldn't agree more. I like the where we're at this point of the year. I think pretty much you can argue, apart from the Tars, every team's actually playing some decent stuff. I think the Tars have got some stuff that has caused that to happen. But at the end of the day, someone's got to end with the spoon. Unfortunately, It's not going to be the Satyrs, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I tell you too, what's good is that I know there's a lot of people who say 8 out of 12 teams, it's just a participation award and everything else. But I like the fact that teams are actually playing for something. And really realistically, there's one game a week where no one's playing for anything, if you're lucky. The rest of the time, there's something on the line, and I think that's actually good for the game.
Yeah. I think there's only one game that really doesn't affect the outcome of the table this week, and that's the Tars and the Reds. To be fair, and there's enough hate in that game for everyone to get involved. So.
Yeah, because even if the Reds lose, they're not changing position, or if they win, they're not changing position, and the Tars are pretty much the same. Although I'm pretty sure they'd like a win.
Pretty sure they would. I'm pretty sure we wouldn't. Let's get on. Let's get on with the games. On the early Friday night game is the Satyrs v Moana. Now I'm just through today. I'm just going to tell you where they can finish as well. So good and bad. So that there'll be a little bit of jumping around, but. Ryan Crotty starts at inside centre for the injured David Arvili. I think that's his first start for the year. Macca Springer's on the wing for Sever Reese. Tamati Williams starts at tight head for Fletcher Newell. And Scott Barrett's still injured. For Moana, Sakopi Kepu finishes his stellar career, starting at tight head. Henry Tiafu is back from injury. And Papasani Tafilo starts on the left wing with Jonathan Tumitani reclaims his position at fullback. Now, the Satyrs, if they're not dead yet, if they win and the Rebels and Drua lose, they can finish 8th.
Yep.
The Moana can finish 5th if they beat the Satyrs and both the Drua and the Force lose. So this game actually has meaning. Yep. There you go. What do you think, Carl?
Yeah, I think the fact that there is so much to play for both Moana Pacifica and the Crusaders is really good. If Moana Pacifica win, then they're gone, and if the Force win in Perth, they're gone. But they can't control any of that. All they control is themselves. And if they win this game, they put themselves in a position to move up the ladder. Being the first game of the weekend too is pretty cool because I think it'll set the scene for what a lot of other players, a lot of other teams are doing. I think the Crusaders have still got problems. I think Ryan Crotty coming over at 12 is not a bad move. Missing Sevu Reece is interesting. He's the top try scorer in Super Rugby this year, and I'm not sure whether he's injured or what's going on there, but that's interesting. I think they lose a lot with not having Scott Barrett there. I think he brings a lot to the game, his leadership, and he is a very, very good player. So it's going to be an interesting game. I think that, Sakipi Kepu is a farewell match. Is that going to be enough of the passion to liven this game up and get them over the line? I think the Crusaders will win. I think if they carry on the way they win against Auckland, then they're going to win this game. And I think they'll do that. But I don't think it's going to be an easy game.
Yeah, I expect it to be tough, but the Crusaders have just got too much class. Ryan Crotty, I think it's his first game back. He's a quality player. And yeah, I just think they've got too much in the tank. They're at home. Truthfully, they've beaten the Chiefs, the Blues, at home this year. And, so they're still a different animal at home. So,
and the Tars have beaten them twice. Fuck, I laugh.
And the Tars have beaten them twice, yes. Next game along, game of the round for me, Waratahs v the Reds. In Sydney, Paddy Ryan's flown in at loosehead. He must need to get an injury. Tom Ross returns at tight head, so that's good news for the Tars that they actually got one back. Lockie Swinton starts at blindside with Ned Hannigan injured. Miles Amatasero starts this week in the row. Jack Bowen starts at fly half with Ed Bent on the bench. Tristan Riley comes into the right wing. For the Reds, Connor Vester's going to start in the row with Ryan Smith on the bench. Smith has the most minutes of any tight forward in Super Rugby this year. Joe Bryle is starting at number 8 with John Bryant on the bench. Zane Nongo starts at tight head with Jeffrey Tuamanga Allen on the bench, and Lawson Crichton moves to fly half with Tom Liner on the bench. So the Reds have run a few changes. What do you reckon, Carl?
Yeah, I don't think it matters. I don't think the Tars have got. I don't think they've got the cohesion. One of the things I've noticed about the Tars this week or this year is that when someone makes a break, they're getting a lot of turnover against them, and they get it because when someone makes a break, there's no one else there because they don't seem to know what each other is doing. And I think that's one of the big failures of the team this year. The Reds are going to be far too strong. I don't care that they're resting a few players and everything else, like Tuamanga Allen and that. I think they're just going to be too strong. I think they are actually a very, very good side. I love Ryan Smith. I think he's actually playing brilliant rugby at the moment. Giving him a rest is a good idea. But no, the Reds have got this, I think, quite easily.
Yeah, ditto. To be honest, I was very disappointed in the Tars last week. I thought they'd fought pretty hard for their coach all the way through, even though they were getting beat. And I thought they bagged it last week and didn't turn up. They were still on the plane to come home. So, yeah, Reds by a bit. Hopefully a bit more than a bit, but Reds by a bit.
The thing is, with the Reds, it doesn't matter, does it? If they lose or if they win, they stay in exactly the same position they are. And that's not a bad place to be because it means that the pressure goes off and they can actually just have fun just before they start the real serious stuff. Their last game can be a fun game, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And if you look at their team, they haven't actually really substantially rested anyone. They're not playing. I don't think James O'Connor's in the team this week, but Joe Bryle was on the bench last week, so they've just promoted him in to give him minutes at the start. John Bryant is a young kid. He's only 20, just out of the 20s. He's played a fair bit of Super Rugby, so just give him a little bit of a break. So it's freshening up his minutes. In terms of that, I know he really hasn't had he's had a few outside back injuries, less kiss this year, and that's been about it. But he's really rotated his squad well and managed minutes and did all that sort of stuff. So just take my hat off to how he's managed the team. And I think they should absolutely blitz it in. first game on Saturday. This will be a bit of a Spidey game, I think. We've got the Drua v the Rebels in Lautoka at about 12:05 Eastern Standard Time. Frank Lamani returns from suspension. Last time he played, he was playing the Rebels. Andrew Kellaway moves to the wing. Mason Gordon starts at fullback, and Carter Gordon's back at fly half. The Drua have made a few more changes, but Frank Lamani is the headline act. He really was the what stirred the drink earlier in the year for them. How do you think this game's going to go, Carl? Just before we get into that, pardon me, I will say the Rebels can finish as high as, just let me pull this up. Rebels can finish as high as Rebels' best case is they can finish 6th. If they beat the Drua and the Highlanders lose to the Canes, worst case they finish 8th. If they lose to the Drua, kill off all teams outside the top 8. For the Drua, they're currently 8th. Their best is 7th if they beat the Rebels with a bonus point, and they will kill off all other teams if they beat the Rebels. So, or they'll finish 8th. That's where that's at. So, Carl, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this has come down to the fact that the Drua are at home and they're a different beast at home, and I think that they just seem to pick things up at home, and I think getting Lamani back is good if he's learnt from his suspension and he doesn't do the dumb stuff that got him there, because he's got a bit of a history of it. So it would be nice if he actually has learnt, but he's a classy guy. I think the Rebels last week, it seemed to me as though the season had finally got to them. They when you think of everything that's been happening and the lack of decision from Rugby Australia and everything else, the fact that they have managed to pull so much together has been absolutely fantastic. But it just seemed to me like last week that it had got to them, and I think that it could be the issue that kills them off this week. I think the Drua will win. I think the Drua will win at home. I think that the Rebels are a good team who have played some good rugby, but I'm not sure their headspace is where it needs to be, especially away from home, away from the family support, and facing the fact that this could be, the end of the year. I think has finally got to them.
Yeah, look, I don't disagree. I think the Drua will win this game, but last week you got to bear in mind that the Rebels didn't have Carter Gordon, and he's really been, he's been what everything flows around. He's kind of that dominant Damien McKenzie for the Chiefs. Without him, they just don't seem to have a rudder. I think the Drua will be specialists for this. I think they'll win. And win quite well. In the past, we've said they're 20 points better at home. Yeah. Evidence would suggest they're between 30 and 40 points better at home.
It's interesting with Carter Gordon, isn't it? I love the debate on the best 10 in Australia at the moment. Personally, I think the best 10 is Liner. I think that if you take the next 2 or 3, there's not actually that much between them. Carter and Alessio, I think they both have different strengths, but I think they're both very good players. But by how Carter Gordon needs to learn how to kick if he wants to be an international fly half, he needs to sort his kicking out, I think. Now we can sit there and say he doesn't have to be the kicker, someone else can, but I think at the way things are going at the moment, teams, especially in Australian teams, they want their number 10 to kick. And if he wants to be the Australian number 10, then he really has to sort his kicking out.
Yeah. I think from my perspective, I look at Carter Gordon. I think if you look at all the fly halves, Carter Gordon's best is better than any of the other 10's best.
Yep.
But his floor is the worst. So, and it's the Quade Cooper conundrum, the Carlos Spencer conundrum. When it's great, it's unbelievably great. And you go, that guy is the best player in the world.
Yep.
But when it goes bad, it looks horrible.
Yeah.
And, missing touch, putting the ball dead from 5 meters out, that sort of stuff is just incompatible. I actually think the best 10 in Australia at the moment is Donaldson. I really like what he's doing. I think he's really good. He's not playing behind a team that's particularly winning,
Yep.
winning a lot, or not playing behind a forward pack that's going forward. But he seems to have a bit of nous about him. I really like the way he goes. But I'm with you. I love Liner. I think he's a really calm
He just seems to have so
player.
much time. He's one of those guys, I mean, everyone used to say that, like Dan Carter, when you're watching him play, he just always seemed to have more time than other people around him. And that's what I see in Liner. I agree a little bit. I think that um, I think Licio stepped up this year. I think he's a better player than what he was last year. I actually don't think there's too much between Licio and Donaldson myself. But it's going to be interesting to see which way old Joe goes on this, because you could actually argue for all four of them to be the number 10 for Australia, and you could have an argument that also wouldn't be wrong, which would have all 10 of them not being there, all four of them, sorry, not being there as a 10. So, they've all got their strengths, they've all got their weaknesses, and it's going to be a really interesting selection to see which way that goes.
Yeah, it's interesting at the moment in Australian rugby. It's probably the first time in 10 years that we've had a real quality crop of young players across almost all positions coming through.
Yep.
And it's if they can keep the vast majority of them, I think the next 4 or 5 years is going to be very, very good for all of our super teams, to be fair, however many there are.
Yeah, I think so too, mate.
However many there are. Anyway, on to the next game. The Canes, what have we got? The Canes v. the Highlanders in Wellington. For the Canes, Asafa Amua is back at hooker after an injury for 6 weeks. They had their other hooker was suspended. We can get onto that. James Tucker starts at lock with injured Caleb Delaney. Duplessis Karifi finishes run on 7 with Peter Lackey on the bench. They're kind of 1 and 1A to me. Salisi Rayasi starts on the left wing. For the Highlanders, Nakora Broughton is this week's number 8. Max Hicks comes in at number 7. Will Tucker's at lock. James Arscott starts at halfback. Try and say that quickly. Finn Hurley starts at fullback. Connor Garden-Bishop comes in on the wing. Matt Wahunga starts at outside centre. I think I know which way you're going to go, Sully, Carl. But just before we start, the Canes are currently second and can finish with the minor premiership or as low as third, with victories to both the Brumbies and the Blues, due to who's had the more wins and all that sort of stuff. The Highlanders are currently 6th. Win and they stay 6th. Lose and the Rebels win, they drop to 7th.
Yep.
So there's still a bit to play for in this game. If they sixth plays 3rd, so that means they're either playing. Again, they could be playing any of them, but 3rd's better than playing 1st. Yep. What are your thoughts, and why do you think your Canes are going to win?
Oh, yes, undoubtedly my Canes are going to win. I think they'll win this quite easily. I think one of the things I like about the Canes this year is that they've managed to find different ways to win games. So they're not relying on, we do this and we win, and if we can't do that, we lose. And I think, when you talked earlier about the Chiefs and Damien McKenzie, that's one of their weaknesses, is that if he's on, they win. If he's off, they not, because they haven't got anything else. And I think that's what I like with the Hurricanes this year. They've swapped multiple players in different games, still found a way to win. And I think that they are on a high. I think they'll win. They'll win with a bonus point, and I think they're going to finish top of the rung and get the minor premiership.
I wouldn't quite go that far, but I think the Canes. I think the Canes will win this game. They're just a settled team, well coached. They know who they are. They play very direct. They play through you. They impose their will on your game. So, and I love teams that do that. I really enjoy a team that goes, okay, we know what we're going to do. As the Satyrs for the last 5 years. Everyone knew what they were going to do. No one could stop it. So Canes are in that position. They've got some great players. I love that Duplessis Karifi. He's a really good player. But that Lackey is also extraordinary. So they've got some real depth and quality in their squad. So that's where I'm going. Next game along, 5:05 game. This will be a cracker. I think the Blues and the Chiefs at Eden Park. It's not far for either team. They're basically neighbours. They're only a couple of 100 k's apart, aren't they, Carl?
Yeah, yeah, drive down the road, half-hour
Yeah,
drive or an hour drive. Yeah,
yeah. So both will be sleeping in their own beds at night. Ricky Telly will start at hooker for the Blues this week. Dalton Papali'i starts at open side flanker. Caleb Clark returns on the wing for the Chiefs. Penny Finau returns at blindside. Wallace Sestiti starts at 8. Nahala Akoi comes in at lock, and Daniel Rona starts at 13 for Anton Leonard-Brown. Now, this one is, again, it's an interesting one. The Chiefs can finish 5th or 5th. They can't do anything. The Blues' best case is finishing 1st by beating the Chiefs. The worst case is 3rd if they lose and both the Brumbies and the Canes win. So there's a bit to play for in this one. What do you think, Carl?
yeah. Interesting one. I think they'll do it. I think for me the issue the Chiefs have got is they're actually Tupavai and ALB Anton Leonard-Brown have both been left out of the game because of the arrest protocols with the All Blacks, and I think that's going to hurt the Chiefs. I think Anton Leonard-Brown has almost been the centre of for New Zealand teams, has been the best centre all year. I think it's between him and obviously my Hurricanes guy, Billy Proctor. But last week against the Hurricanes, even losing, he played some beautiful rugby with some lovely moves. He understands the gap. He knows how to put his outside players into space. And he's just playing really well at the moment, and I think they're really going to miss him, which will cause them problems. The only thing that counters that is of course my favourite Ioane Rico is back on the field, and we all know that I'm not a huge fan of him. I think that individually he's a fantastic player, but I don't think he's learnt how to create space for his fullback and wings yet, and I think that's one of his biggest shortfalls, and he needs to do that. But when you look at the Blues, you look at their forward pack. Tupuloto is playing well. Satutu's playing exceptionally well. Lee's back. He's one of the standout sevens at the moment. So I think the Blues will take this. They're at home, and I think they're going to take it over the Chiefs quite well.
Yeah, I think this is a struck match game. It'll come down to one moment. I don't think either team's going to win by much. The interesting thing will be is, probably the Blues have got more to play for, but they'll beat the daylights out of each other. So
as an Australian, you'll love that,
mate. Well, I've got a hand on heart. I hope the Blues beat the living pissle out of the Chiefs and wound them badly so that they struggle next week when they play the Reds. But
they're cool too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But no, look, I think the Blues are just they're that team that plays through you. They go back. They've got that default game that they can go to.
It'll be interesting
at times they've tried to shift it a bit too early, and the Chiefs could suck them into a bit of that game.
Yep, they could absolutely.
And if they do, they could quickly find themselves, 12, 14 behind, and that could lead to a bit of panic. So it is an interesting game. If the Chiefs can skip out early, it'll be interesting to see how the Blues can overcome that.
It'll be interesting how the Blues take Damien McKenzie. It's interesting. Last week the Hurricanes followed the Reds process. When the Reds played the Chiefs and they beat them, one of the things they did exceptionally well was they took Damien McKenzie out of the play. And it wasn't particularly that he had a bad game, but they targeted him, which meant that he couldn't play with the freedom he normally plays, and it's the freedom he likes to play with. And I think the Blues, certainly the Hurricanes, took note of that, and they did the same last week. They basically took his space, and if you take his space and he can't do the things he needs to do, then he struggles. And I think the Blues will do the same with that. I think it's one of Damien McKenzie's weaknesses is that he needs that space, and I still see him as a much better fullback than a first five because of that. But it'll be interesting. I agree with you. Blues are going to take this, but it's one of those things that the bounce of the ball, the odd call, something done by a player, and it could absolutely go the other way.
Mm, mm. Well, Finau's playing for the Chiefs, so something dumb could well occur. But they,
He's your favourite player. Yeah, he'll be just that little bit
mate,
late this week.
I got to admit, I actually really like him. I think he's a
So do
very
I.
good. I think he's a good player. Uh, he's,
His
he's got,
timing. Oh, he's just got to get. He gets it a half second wrong, and he's in a
oh,
world of hurt.
he's a red card waiting to happen, and that would be a concern if I coached him. With respect to Mackenzie, a lot of the time I think with players like him, the smaller zip-zippy player, sometimes when you kick to them, it's better to actually not kick as long to give them that run back time, get them so they're catching the ball, getting tackled, so they've
Absolutely.
just got that physical contact all the time, and
Take
they
his
start
time out. Yep, take his
they
space and his time. Absolutely.
Yeah. So sometimes 10 meters shorter gives you 15 meters more advantage because he doesn't have the space to look up, set the time, figure out what he's going to do. And just that, of course, he's got the wheels to burn it almost anyone on the planet. So,
when he sees, Damien McKenzie, when and this is why I like him at the back, he sees that space, and it's almost like he can see 3 moves ahead. If I do this, they'll do that. I can do this, they'll do that. I'll pass there, bang, it'll open up. And he just does it so often, and it's just awesome to watch when he does that. But I don't think he can do that as well at 10, especially when he's got a really good flanker or a really good couple of flankers who are starting to take his space. I think that's when he struggles.
He also, being that kind of 10, he struggles a bit when he's not getting that front football.
Yep.
He looks $1 million when he gets the front football, but he's got to play it off the back, he gets a little bit skittish on occasion. Don't get me wrong, he's still an extremely good player.
Anyway. Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Next one along, we've got the Force v the Brumbies. Interesting game. It's the last game of the regular season game, and there's a bit on the hook for both teams, but both teams will know exactly what they've got to do. 7:35 in Perth. Sam Carter returns from injury at lock for the Forces. Max Bury's going to start at fly half. Ben Donaldson is injured. Ryan Coxon starts at loosehead. For the Brumbies, they've got Blake Shop starts at for the injured James Slipper at loosehead. He's done a calf injury. Rory Scott joins the squad at open side flanker, and Nick Frost and Tom Hooper switch roles. Frost is at lock and Hooper's at blindside, 1A, 1B. The way this game works out is the Brumbies are currently third and can finish as high as first if they win with a bonus point and both the Blues and the Canes lose. If either of those two drop a game, the Brumbies will finish and win. The Brumbies will finish second. So the Force are currently ninth and can finish in eighth if the Rebels beat the Drua and Moana beat the Satyrs. It seems unlikely for our Force friends, but it is the hope that kills you. I am a Red supporter. What do you think, Karl?
I haven't actually been that impressed with the Brumbies this year. They look like a team that doesn't really know what they're doing. The fact that their scrum, which has always been a strength, has almost been one of their weaknesses, has been really hard to fathom how that turned out. And because they're getting not such good ball, then players like Ikitau and others aren't playing the game that they have played in the past. And I think that if you look at the last couple of games they've had, they've won ugly, which in itself is awesome. I'd rather win ugly than lose looking really well. And the fact that they can play poorly and still win is a real big plus on them. And I think that they're going to win this game regardless because of that. I just feel that they struggle in an area where they need to get points to actually push that next level. And I think they'll beat the Force absolutely. The Force, yeah, sure, they're at home. They play better at home and everything else. But I don't think they've got enough to beat the Brumbies. And I think the Brumbies will win. But I think they'll win ugly. and they'll stay in third position. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I'm tipping. I will also be tipping the Brumbies with Ben Donaldson out. I think they lose a lot. As I said earlier, I think he's probably playing the best of any of the fly halves in Australia at the moment. The Brumbies scrum ways are interesting. I think it's obviously just a change of emphasis on how they're wanting to play. They've added layers, probably moved a little bit away from training their set piece. Slipper's getting older.
Yep.
Alan Alatoa's coming back
as
from
all of us are.
correct. Alan Alatoa is coming back from a Achilles, so he's still not 100%. Cannot be.
Yep.
Still a quality player and a better human being, but so they're sort of just pushing around. And I think for the Brumbies, the loss of Dan Palmer to Leicester has been a big thing for them. He was their scrum coach for probably the last 3 or 4 years, and given that the Brumbies scrum has gone backwards, I think that shows how good a coach he was.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually, as much as they're having problems in the scrum, though, I think the biggest issue the Brumbies have got at the moment have been their linking between Tua and Iketel. I just don't think that's working. I don't think either of those two understand each other enough to know what's going on. And if even last week, when you look, they had a wonderful win last week and everything, but when you look at the tries that they scored, the tries seem to come about because of individual brilliance from Tom Wright or Muirhead or Toole. They didn't come about because of a planned structure that allowed that try to occur. And I think that's been their biggest weakness this year. They really just don't seem to have this cohesion about how do we create the space. With the Hurricanes, someone runs up and makes a break and gets tackled. There's 4 people there supporting him. With the Brumbies, someone runs up, all of a sudden something happens and he's running by himself, and if he doesn't score, they end up losing the ball. So I think there are a few issues there. I think they miss who's the number 8? Kale? No.
Valentini or Kale or
Kale, yeah. I think
Pete Samu from last year.
No, I think yeah, Samu they obviously miss. I was really enjoying the way Kale played. I think that he was out on the wing or in the back line a lot. I actually think he provided the link that's actually missing at the moment. And they miss that. But I don't think it's going to be enough. I think regardless of that, I think they're going to be too strong for the Force. And although the Force is a bit like the Drua where they gain, 10 or 15 points when they're at home, as you say, they haven't got Donaldson. They're going to miss a little bit. I think that, the Brumbies will take this without too much, I think.
Yeah. Look, I think the Force will be big improvers next year.
Yeah,
I think you look at some of the things they're doing. I'm a little bit aware of what they do in the background with their development squads and all that sort of stuff. Really first-class work. They're developing a good system. They're developing a good thing. All their players that they bring over to their academy, they take them to Perth, so they're improving their competition. That will obviously, over time, they keep doing that. They'll actually be developing their own players left, right, centre, rather than having to import, which is what they do at the moment. But the biggest, it's actually an interesting thing in that, because the Brumbies' biggest thing is they've been able to cherry pick off the Tars and the Reds in the past, and when you go to Canberra, you basically are only there to play rugby, because what else is there to do in Canberra? The Force are in the same sort of position, except there's a bit more to do and it's a nicer place to go. So there are probably a few more distractions, but if you were given the choice, and the programs are pretty much the same, I know where I'd be going if I'm a 21-year-old.
It's interesting. The Army, New Zealand Army, posted me to Canberra. I spent 3 years in there as a liaison officer in Army headquarters. And
worse than Dunedin.
Yeah. So my wife was an Australian soldier. We met in East Timor, and she came in, and she's from Foster Tuncurry up the coast. Like, before she joined the army, she spent 3 years as a lifeguard. So she loves the beach. She loves the warmth. And she used to sit there and say, "What the fuck are we doing in Canberra? You Kiwis come to Australia for warm weather and beaches, and you've got me stuck in Canberra for 3 years. I know there's a lot of people who like Canberra, and I can absolutely see that. But if I had a choice between Perth and Canberra, the 5 hours to get to Perth, I don't care. It's still a better place to be.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love Canberra, but I couldn't live there. I couldn't live there. It's just too bitter for me. But yeah, but it is a lovely. It is actually a lovely place to go and visit and do all the good things that
And
Australia
get
has
the fuck away from.
Pretty much, yeah. I do come from a town where they say happiness is our town in your rear vision mirror. And they've got a photo of the silhouette of the town
Yep.
in someone's mirror.
Yep.
Anyway, let's get on with the last section for the night, everyone. Shouting at clouds. I'm going to go first on this one.
I think you should.
I should. Again, it's a common theme for me. It's going to be the judiciary, and this time it's how the hell. Like, I don't get me wrong. Love it when they actually do suspenders at Kiwi, but again, it comes down to that learning point. What was the Canes hooker supposed to do? He was bent at the hips, going into contact. There was someone right beside him, so he can't really rap. But he's done all the things right. And I read the thing today, and he was moving in an upwards direction. And even though his first point of contact was below the shoulder, that was a rugby incident, boys. Play on. Just play on. Jouer. It does my head in. Interestingly, they didn't put at the moment, I checked the website a little while back, they don't have the Taniela Tupou clearing thing up there. And again, it goes back to our point from a couple of weeks ago, transparency, boys. Put it up there. We disagree with it. I disagree with the Canes hook getting 3 weeks. But you know what? At least I can understand why you got to that conclusion.
Yeah.
See,
it's interesting when I look at that. So if I was reffing both of those games and I saw those incidents, I think that I don't think I would have sent the hooker off, because I would have seen that as both players bent over. I actually do understand what the judiciary said about him moving upwards. And when you look at the tackle, he bent at the waist, came in, and then stepped up, and the step up was what created the head contact. If he had stayed bent over, he would have driven that shoulder into his belly and would have brought him to the ground. There wouldn't have been a problem. So from that perspective, I can understand where the judiciary is coming from. 2 players bent over, they both go in bending down. The defending player starts moving up as he goes in. That causes the head contact, so suspension. Understand that. The one that gets me about Taniela Tupou is that if I'd seen that and I was reffing a game and I saw someone come in from the side, no arms, shoulder hit a player on the ground, regardless of a red contact, that would have been a red card straight away. I wouldn't have done anything. It would have been red card. You were coming in from the side. You made no attempt to wrap. You hit with your shoulder. Your intent was obviously to hurt someone. You're off the field. And what I find strange about the Taniela Tupou one is that the words that I'm hearing from the judiciary is that there was no head contact, so therefore there was no foul play, and it was just, it didn't meet the foul play. And it's like, well, hang on, head contact isn't the only foul play in rugby.
Yeah.
He came in from the side with nothing, he was not going to clear the ball. There's no way he was clearing the ball. His only intent in going into that ruck was to hurt Swain and hit him with his shoulder. That's dangerous play. That's against the principles of the game. That's everything wrong. And I actually find it very strange that they made that decision. But then, it's interesting. We talk about the judiciary, and people say, "Oh, if you're a referee and you give someone a red card and he gets off, does that piss you off?" No. And I talk to other referees. We don't care. If we give someone a red
Big.
card, he's no longer playing in the game we're refereeing. If someone else somewhere says it shouldn't be a red card, we made a mistake. Yeah, still wasn't in our game, so we don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. To your point, the biggest issue with that is you've got a situation where there was an excellent pod, and I couldn't tell you if you held a gun to my head. I couldn't tell you who it was with, but Matt Carley, the English referee, was on the pod, and he'd in the week before, it might have been the rugby pod or whatever, but in the week before, he'd actually sent someone off, and he said that's dangerous play, and he didn't send him off. He gave him a yellow card, but he said that's dangerous play, and he said there's always that you can go back to of what you did was dangerous play. So in that instance, to Taniela Tupou. Yellow card, I'd probably live with. Red card, I think might be a bit high, but that's potato. But it was certainly dangerous play, so he certainly deserved a yellow card. The Finau one probably deserved a yellow card when he deleted Tom Liner. That was probably a yellow card. The fact that the referee said no, that it wasn't head contact. So in that respect, we're actually adjudicating the outcome, not the thing.
Not the
I don't want to
incident,
get.
and that's
I don't
wrong.
want to. Yeah, I don't want to get into intent because you don't know what's in someone's
You can't
mind.
prove it, no.
I hear some nufties from across the ditch going, "Oh, Darcy Swain intended to hurt Quentin Tupai." No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
Like
No.
he didn't. Sorry, I actually take that back. He meant to hurt him. He didn't mean to injure him because everybody who walks onto a rugby field, with the exception of the guy with a whistle, wants to hurt people.
Absolutely.
They don't want to injure them.
I had a coach who when we were practicing tackling, so your goal is to hit him in the belly so hard that you push his belly button out through his spine.
Yeah,
If you hit him in the leg, your goal should be to break his leg in the tackle. That's how we were taught to play, and obviously I never did. Well, I didn't most of the time, but that's how it is. You are going out there to tackle someone, to hurt them and bring them to the ground. You don't want to injure them.
No, you want to take away their will.
Yeah,
you actually want to get to the point where I don't want to do this anymore. This hurts. It's sore. I don't want to get up anymore. That's the objective.
When I was an open side flanker, my coach used to say to me, "I want you to tackle that number 10, and I want you to tackle them as hard as you can. And if it's in their half, I don't care if it's late because they won't score a penalty. They won't score points off that. But I want you to hit him as hard as you can so that next time he gets the ball, he's looking for you, not what he's doing."
How very Kiwi of you, my friend.
All right.
Anyway, what got on your game, my friend?
Sorry?
What got on yours? What are you shouting at the clouds for?
I think with me shouting at the clouds, I'm with you on the judiciary. I don't care so much about the different decisions because the judiciary has been such a rolling ball of decisions where we can't actually understand how they came to it in so many areas that I've stopped worrying about it. But I think that someone going in to hit someone in a ruck when they're not going to clean it out, they're not going to get the ball, the only reason they're going in is to hit someone, I think that was a bit low. I think that was just a bit low as a person. Taniela Tupou, I have lost a lot of respect for him. He's good in a couple of scrums, but he waddles around the field. He does stupid acts like that. I think that the sooner he gets a gig offshore and runs away to the Northern Hemisphere somewhere and doesn't come back, Australian rugby will be a better place.
Disagree on the last part, but I see your point in the first. Interesting, again, talking about other interviews I heard, Sam Warburton, he was talking about, what do we do when, you see someone jackling over the ball, and, he was one of the great jacklers of the last 15 years. And he's going, and the reporter was expecting him to say, something like, you talking about nuance and stuff like that. And he just said, someone's in a good position off the ball, you just try to melt them.
Absolutely, yeah.
And, he was the guy getting melted half the time.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Anyway, that's going to see us about out this week, ladies and gents. If you're still listening, thanks very much. We appreciate your support. Don't forget to download, rate, subscribe, review, do all that. Enjoy your rugby. You got to sign off there, Carl?
Sign off, buddy. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Okay, bye for now.
If you don't know anything about rugby, don't talk.
Regan. Drop goal from Larkham.
Australia 3-4. They've got the advantage.
Worst press conference. Well done, boys.